that Ori back there?
Right there?
Yeah.
Just chilling.
He's just hanging off my lamp.
Yeah. Nice.
He's just chilling. And yeah, if you're curious, that is The Dead Zone by Stephen King, if you're just looking at all the detritus stacked in the back of it.
You're too small. I can see Ori. I can see a lamp. I can see Sonic. That's about it. I don't know why. I can see it's like so much wider angle when we're talking on here than it is.
I crop it down on the stream.
Oh, that makes sense. Yes.
So it's more like locked in on me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's, if you're ever curious, this is a Game Boy Color beach towel.
Oh, was it ever used?
No, I got it new, unused, and I just put it up as a banner right away.
That's
not
cool.
to say in a pinch, on beach day I wouldn't.
I mean, come on, dude. That would be you. That's a flex.
Mm-hmm.
That is
show
a flex.
up with the vintage '90s Game Boy Color beach towel.
Yeah.
Just at the Polycon hot tub, just with that on, just chilling.
That would be freaking sick. Yeah, we're slapping hands and slapping butts while we're switching out showers, and Steve comes out with the Game Boy Color wrapped around him. Like, well, goddamn, throw that thing in the dryer and make sure it's ready for me.
Yeah, no good.
Well, welcome to IndieQuest, a celebration of the indie and obscure. I'm one of your hosts, Josh, and joined by one of my awesome co-hosts, Steve. How's it going?
It's going good. Fantastic day. A little tired, but that's all right because the indie games always pep me up. And I'll tell you why I'm tired, but not until I introduce our other co-host here, because would you believe it? We have 3 fellas today. Seth, how's it going, buddy?
Not to just always echo what Steve says, but I'm also tired. I will explain why. And it's because I was on a work trip this week, and I feel like I just... The lag, I mean, it wasn't even a different time zone, but I got delayed like crazy on my flight back, and so I didn't get back here until late, and so I feel like I've been on catch-up mode all weekend, but we're back and ready to talk about some indie video games.
Yeah, traveling like that's exhausting. Even though you're like getting to hang out in some hotel rooms in the evening and probably play some games on a Switch or a 3DS or something, it's still just being out of your element is tiring.
Honestly, the way that my team does these work trips is it's like half work, half vacation, like where we go together and hang out. And so, but for me, that's like even more work because I'm not very used to hanging out with a lot of people all the time. Mm-hmm. So what we do is we like work for a substantial, like 6 hours. We have meetings and then we have like a group activity and then we go to dinner, and it's just like, so you don't actually end up getting back to the hotel until like 9 or later sometimes. And it's just like, man, if I was at my house, I would have been done working like 4 hours ago. And yes, we're not really working, but still, it's just that thing. And it's all that to be said is it's very fun and I enjoyed myself, but still it wears out the social battery. That's for sure.
Yeah, very much so. I have no travel excuse. I'm just tired because it was my 3-year-old's birthday party today. So I did a lot of climbing. We went to an indoor playground, and so I spent a lot of time either going down tube slides, which aren't necessarily designed to fit a man of such confident stature, or, serving up ice cream cake to friends and family.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. That's one of those things where 2 days later you're like, I didn't know this muscle can be this sore, after you're crawling in different areas you're not used to anymore,
Like 2 different times. Again, it's all designed for kids, so I'm like crouched down everywhere I'm trying to get around. I'm either crawling on my knees or hunched over. Like 2 times I walked directly into a bar I didn't realize, and it smacked me on the head and like pushed my head down into my shoulders and cracked my neck a bunch of times. You have this like half second where you roll your head around and you're like, did I just break my neck? Nope, it still seems to be working. Okay, guess I'll carry on then.
Yeah, shake it off, act like nothing happened. I'm cool. Yeah, I'm cool.
Yep. The kid doesn't care. He's like, come on, we got to get to the blue slide.
Your kid turning 3 is such a interesting chapter, I suppose, because it feels like it was yesterday that he was being born, and now we're here, and it's wild. Time is a wild thing.
Yeah, it's messed up, man. It's absolutely terrifying, horrifying in every possible way. It's cool to see him get older, but it's like, all right, let's slow the pace down just a little bit, please.
Yes. Yep.
Anyways, Josh, why are you tired?
Oh, I'm not that tired. Well,
Lies.
no, I'm good. I started my new job. It's really good and actually way more chill. So I'm actually feeling good, not exhausted on Saturday and this weekend. I was like, this is weird. I'm getting home at a decent time and I'm not killing myself. Whoa, so that's always nice.
Heck yeah, man. Love to hear that.
Yeah, so I'm good. I'm chill. But it is Sunday. Sunday scares are settling in a little bit. But that's normal.
Yeah. It's the inevitability. That's why we bring the world's most low energy indie podcast, as we record at the very end of the weekend, where there's no fun left other than this.
Yes.
We could just say we're chill. That's all there is to it. We're just relaxed.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I'll take that.
Well, speaking of relaxed, there was a relaxing, I guess. I tried for a segue there, but there was an indie game announcement thing called Triple I Initiative, where they always tote that they have no ads, no hosts, anything like that. Just the biggest of the big of the small, pretty much, right? And the funny part about this is, even Pam even mentioned on the Discord, she's like, "Isn't all of this ads? You can't say no ads when they're just trailers for video games, right? They're just ads for video games," which is funny. But anyway, who wants to go first? You guys have any highlights from this?
I'll go first.
Go for it.
Because I know for a fact I'm just gonna throw the one out there. So yes, we're all gonna talk about a few games. I'm gonna steal a game from probably both of my co-hosts because I know for a fact they're about to say it. So we might as well just talk about what I would consider to be the big one before we talk about anything else, and that is Alabastar Dawn. I assume. Would you both agree?
I think there's for us in particular, I think there's three big ones, and I think that's one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking it was either that one or another one, which we'll talk about. So
okay. All right. So Alabastar Dawn, I guess mention it here at the top. It is made by the same people who made Crosscode. And just so happens to look and seemingly play a lot like Crosscode.
Yeah.
So
I didn't want to say Crosscode 2, but
yes, it's
sure
Alabastar
looks a
Dawn.
lot like Crosscode 2 to my eyes.
And honestly, I have played Crosscode a little bit, but have not gone back to it for a variety of reasons. I guess the forefront of all of those reasons is that it is, even though it's an action RPG, it is very long. Yes.
Yeah.
And I just haven't found the time, I suppose. It is also probably top 10 omissions of the quest log currently. I think Steve could bring it at any time because he's played through it. But
I haven't played it either, unfortunately. Yeah, I need to. I know it's one that I'll love if I play it. So
it's almost a game that we could probably do a full episode on at some point if we really cared to.
Yeah.
But even though I haven't played it, doesn't mean that this game doesn't look sick as heck. It looks awesome. Honestly, thinking back, like Crosscode came out at a time before I had played a lot of action RPGs, such as the Ys series, and it really gives that very well. It's like indie Ys in the 2020s. It's like, that's what it is, and that's kind of what I want. And this is also what that looks like. It does kind of look, it has always kind of looked to me a little bit RPG Maker-ish, but like the most polished RPG Maker game you've ever seen before. Like the animations are the smoothest things ever. So that is not to take away from it at all. It looks amazing, but it still has like that, like we made an RPG game and it's a little generic.
Yeah, and I never knew, because the first one, you're playing in an in-game MMO. Like you're playing someone who is playing an MMO character. I never knew if that art style was intentional to like go one layer into, this looks like a video game in a video game. But I mean, with Alabastar Dawn, it still has a pretty similar look, although it definitely is polished up. Like you can tell that like they're flexing some cool new visual tricks and things, so it's going to look fantastic.
It's kind of like
just,
the. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna bring it back to the top. The
You're good.
The PSP Ease games is what it looks like to me, and
Yes,
that's perfect. That's all you need. They're some of the best looking games ever. The boss sprites and everything. So. Go ahead, Josh.
I was just gonna say it's kind of like a Hollow Knight to Silksong, where Hollow Knight still looks great, but Silksong pulls all the tricks out. Same idea with this one.
Yes.
totally.
All right,
Cool.
Should I talk about a game?
Yes.
Yeah, take one because I know what one you're going to take, and I want to talk about it.
Okay, Prove You're Human from 1,000 Times Resist Studio Sunset Visitor. Honestly, I was very impressed by the trailer. It's very creepy, futuristic, about an AI that thinks it's a person, and CAPTCHA puzzle games, I guess, which is pretty fun. I just know the story is going to be very high concept, and the graphics and the art style is just stunning in this. Because I know 1,000 Times Resist has a look to it, and it has an art style, but you could tell that's their first game. But you could tell this time they're like, no, we're pulling out all the stops. It's going to be gorgeous and put together very, very well.
Yes, it had a lot of the obviously entirely different like setup and world, but had some sort of like little piece of Sunset Visitor style in there. I can't exactly explain what it is, but they definitely have in house style. Something about the way that they like animate characters and like the camera shots they choose and the way that their games all look like they started as PS2 games and then were just made incredibly beautiful from there. It's going to be awesome. Hopefully.
Yeah,
I don't know, but I'm excited for it.
It was the publisher or the guy who made what's that princess game, the black and white one. He's
Slay the Princess.
Slay the Princess. Yeah, that studio is actually publishing this.
Yeah.
So they got pitched by Sunset Visitor, and it was like, we're doing this. Why not? It sounds amazing. So now they're like teamed up for this game, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that was weird to me because I read that Sunset Visitor was shopping around their next game, and they were having a hard time locking down a publisher prior to the Slay the Princess folks.
Yeah.
And like I get that as an industry, everyone is very cautious right now and playing things very safe. But it's hard for me to imagine I run a publishing company and the makers of 1,000 Times Resist, like this Omega critical darling, come to me and say, we want to make another one of these. Yeah. And I say like, no, I'll just take 2 more Extraction shooters. Thanks. It's all good.
Yeah, true. I mean, we knew we were going to be excited. I knew I was going to be excited when they announced their next thing. So take your time whenever they're ready. I think it just has a TBA release date right now. It doesn't have a year even, so maybe next year, something like that. But I'm hyped. Whenever it comes out, I'm day one-ing that one for sure.
Yeah, same. This is where I'm going to eat my words, and we're going to get like a Hyper Light Breaker situation where we're going to get another trailer that they're making a second game. 1,000 sisters are dropped onto an island.
I mean, I'd play that.
Circle that shrinks. The storm is coming. Who can survive?
1,000 is so fun. That is
good.
quite a battle royale. 1,000. That's wild.
Yeah.
1,000 Times Sisters. I'll play it, man. Sounds good to me.
All right, I'll take one that I'm excited about because it's the last of the 3 I was referring to. Because it just feels very fitting for our show. And that is Machine Party, which is the next game from the Buckshot Roulette developer. Mm-hmm. And it looks to be like a multiplayer minigame fest. It's like what if Buckshot Roulette but Mario Party? Which seems perfect for us to all play together, which I'm very excited to check out. It had like a look to it where I was like, oh yeah, this is definitely in that style, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Have you guys ever experienced Buckshot Roulette in multiplayer? Because they added it.
No, I mean multiplayer against the computer.
Well,
no.
yeah. They added 4-player multiplayer, and we had, me and our like Tuesday night group had a good time playing it for one night. I'm not entirely sure how many nights you could really play it. It was clearly meant to be a single player game, but all that to say, I believe that they have it in them to make a ground up multiplayer game. So I'm sure this will be really good.
Yeah. And it seems much more like a lot more variety exists in this game compared to Buckshot Roulette, which is like one good idea that takes 2 minutes to execute around, and that's basically the entire game. This seems like they were like, finally, I can make the rated M sequel to Fusion Frenzy on the original Xbox.
Yeah, let's go.
My favorite thing about this is that Buckshot Roulette, which was kind of like this come out of nowhere game on itch that eventually made its way to Steam, did so well that Mike Klebnica is able to then now make this like grander experience. Like that is what indie games are all about. Like that's what's so cool about it, that you can just have a really unique idea, be successful, and then now you're an indie game creator, you're a game creator. It's just so cool.
Yeah, really awesome. So I'll be there. I'm excited. You know, they have my attention.
Oh, I suppose it is my turn again. So those were my most excited for ones for sure, but I do have a couple others here. I guess I'll talk about Too Deep to Quit next. Do you guys remember seeing Too Deep to Quit?
That looked fun.
It looks interesting. The reason I wanted to remark on it is because I'm sure it looks good, and it looks like it's well developed, and it looks like it'll be a fun party game. But to me, at this point, you can basically count on one of those kinds of games to come out per year. It is the content warning thing where you get a group of 4 friends together, and you kind of travel down into this place and run around and try not to die while doing a goofy thing. So it just seems like that's like a once per year. I mean, it's probably more often than that, but everybody seems to be kind of capitalizing or trying to capitalize on that formula, which is cool. We enjoy playing those games in our group, and I know Steve and I played a little bit of Content Warning together at one point. And they're fun, you know, they're fun for a night or two of just like goofing around and laughing. So I suppose was worth bringing up here and talking about a little bit.
Yeah, man. Power of friendship is a strong thing. You just get some friends in a Discord call, and you're pretty much guaranteed to enjoy the game you're playing.
For sure.
Well, I have one here called Long Gone. I thought this one could go either way, but it's gorgeous. It's a 2D side-scrolling zombie survival game, it seems like. But it seems like it's like more of a point A to point B story-driven type storyline, not just like open world just trying to survive. You probably have like a story like The Last of Us or something like that. And but the pixel art's really what stood out to me, and the animation, it just flows very naturally, and it looks like it's going to be a really intense game with like lots of like seat of your pants type, like running away from the zombies and trying to like get behind a corner, duck down underneath a fridge or whatever, or behind a fridge, you know. Yeah. So looks cool. Stood out to me for sure.
This feels like such a Josh game. It's almost like, what if Minecraft was even more survival and also not quite as blocky? That's what it looks like to me, right? Like it's that 3D pixelated style.
It has, it has some voxel environments, and then like the flat 2D guys running across. It looks cool.
It does.
Yeah, that was one of the big ones I had written down too, because something about it stood out a little bit compared to the other games. It felt unique. And so, plus obviously it's gorgeous. So I was like, okay, I think I could get down to check out 2D side-scrolling Last of Us.
Yeah, why not?
This makes sense. Awesome. Well, you guys actually spoke to most of mine, but the one that I'll just give a shout out to, and this game actually, I believe, is out as of the AAA showcase. But it's just an interesting idea. Final Sentence. Did either of you clock this one?
Yeah, it's that battle royale, right?
It's a battle royale, like Squid Game type game, but it's all typing. So it's typing of the dead battle royale, basically. You're sitting at a old typewriter, and like a masked plague doctor with a gun is pointing a pistol at you, and you're given sentences you have to type. And if you make a mistake, you lose the round and you're out of the game. Which is just it feels like a perfect mashup of two ideas that should never have gone together, but it makes a lot of sense when you think about it.
I almost bought this game before I watched the AAA because I saw it and I was like,
Wow.
oh, that's really
Nice.
cool. But then I was like, oh, it's a PvP typing game. And I didn't read enough about it. I think there is like a single player where you can like play against a computer.
Yeah.
But dang, if it was true PvP, I would just get absolutely crushed by some typists out there. My 90 words per minute would not get me very far. So, but it is still super interesting. I can imagine there are some people out there that are just amazing and just crush everybody. But
Yeah. Well, just a fun idea. I don't
Yes,
know.
it
I like
is.
that we're just getting all sorts of creative spins on these very familiar genres.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they do like power ups in there. It's like you type a certain number of words, or you type the like 10 times and you get like a little boost or something. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like there's a lot of like potential for that, in that type of game.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Anything else jump out to any of you fellas?
yeah, I wrote one other one down. This is almost purely for the group of people I play with, PD, Ross, and Briz. It's called Far Far West. I have not brought a lot of these games that we play sometimes to IndieQuest proper, which I really should, because I feel like there's a little bit of subset of games of like the 4-player co-op shooters that we are basically never going to talk about. But this one does come out in like a week, and I could absolutely see my group, playing this game at some point. It's very much up our alley. I don't know that it's a roguelike, and we do like to play those kinds of games like the Abyssus and the stuff like that, but we will definitely dip our toe into this game at some point. We'll throw it on the list. It could end up being like 2029 because we're playing Baldur's Gate 3 and that's going to take forever, but at some point I imagine we'll try this. But it looks cool. It's just a run around and shoot stuff. It looks like there's a little bit of crafting maybe in there, some mining type stuff, but mostly just running around and shooting stuff. And of course, it takes place in a Western setting, which I dig.
Yeah.
The boot lover that I am. So
The boots per minute in that game,
lots.
so much higher than your typical.
Exactly. Yep.
That actually, okay, that would seg me to my last point, but I don't want to step on you, Josh, if you have anything else you wanted to talk about.
I was just gonna say, shout outs to our boy Scotch and Hobbies. He got Graveyard Keeper.
Graveyard
too,
Keeper,
so,
yeah.
yeah. That's all I was gonna say.
I literally have a note on my phone for a bunch of games, and Graveyard Keeper 2 just says, I'm just happy for my friend.
There you go.
See, I wrote just like some general thoughts about the show, which after watching it, I was like, there's had some things to unpack, I guess. One, I think that the way that they do the show is quite good. The pacing is nice, and even though sometimes it's fun to have a host to a show like this, they do a good job of signaling like what platforms different games are going to come out on as you watch trailer. What is like the first time a game has been shown versus new footage. Like they're very good about signposting the reason a trailer exists, which I liked. But I had like two big takeaways from the show. One is that like 9 times I had the thought, oh, well, I'm happy for Captain Drachma and the multiplayer crew, because almost every game in here was either a 4-player co-op that probably has like local positional audio, or it was a crafting game of some kind. Like if you filtered, if we were playing Guess Who and those were my first 2 questions, like 28 of your 30 cards would be flipped down by then. There was so few games in here that weren't multiplayer or crafting games. I mean, I guess it just shows that's where the industry is. But I feel bad for all these developers, because when you see 11 different 4-player multiplayer games, it's just hard for me to imagine a world where all of them are going to find their audience, right? They all feel like they're in competition with each other in a way that a typical run of single-player focused indies would not feel.
To be completely honest, to your point, Steve, I'm not entirely sure if we were doing like a Nintendo Direct, one of these where we talk about a few games. Far Far West would probably never be on my list. It's a game that I will probably play at some point for that specific reason, but it is not a game that specifically interests my like what I enjoy bringing to the show, for example. And I was thinking the exact same thing. I was like, okay, we're farming again. Like sometimes I was like, oh, this looks like it's going to be a really cool game. And then, oh, we're gathering resources. I'm like, no, please stop. I mean, a little bit's fine, but it doesn't, it felt like it was a lot of it. And I'm not trying to crap on the show or anything, but
yeah,
I felt the exact same way. And I felt, as I was watching it, I was like, I wonder what the boys are thinking, because it's just, there's so much of that. So, yeah.
Even the DLCs is like Don't Starve Together something, and then what was it, Oxygen Not Included. Both of those are like the clay games. They're both very like survival crafty, like super hardcore, especially Don't Starve. Don't Starve is a hard game. So very specific.
Yeah, so we're just in a weird place, I guess, in the upper crust of like marketable indies, where we seem to sort of have consolidated down into a few genres, and I anticipate that there will be an expansion back outwards again, because it doesn't seem sustainable. Like, I can only hear so many, like Seth said, so many announcers on a trailer say the phrase "gather resources" before I'm like, I think I've got all the stone I'm ever going to need to get in my life. Why not again? And why would people not just be like, I'll just go play Stardew, or I'll just go play Minecraft? Like, I already have my game to gather stone and wood. So, but I also say that fully acknowledging that those also are just not my type of game. So, like, I'm not trying to put too much of my own personal bias into it here either.
I feel so bad for the person who just started listening. They're like, gosh, I hope they talk about all the resource gathering indies. And we're like, yeah, we don't like those. And now they're never going to listen to us again. Like, we've been recommended some of those before, but I guess, and I think people who've been around for a while and listened to us, typically we are going for like, not necessarily short, but we can see the end in sight type of games. Yeah. That's typically what we bring here. And those games just aren't that. Like, if we start playing those, and trust me, I would probably get lost in a few of them. I wouldn't play anything else, and it just doesn't lend itself to good podcast chat, I suppose. So
yeah. It's a good way of approaching that. I think my gaming plate already overfloweth with good options between indies, the retros I play, the trophy hunting on the side. Like, my time is so overstuffed that a game that is trying to say, you could just keep doing this loop forever, man. Just keep coming in and making it keep tweaking, keep going. It's a little bit like kryptonite to my brain, but I'm happy for the people that are happy. These are Josh games. I just hand them off to Josh. And I'm like, tell me if I should play this one.
I will say I am working on one that's a little longer, but it'll probably be like in a month or two before I get around to beating that one, because it's one more. I'm popping on for an hour, I'm doing 3 or 4 tasks, and then moving on to something else type of game. So I do plan to bring that one to the show eventually. So I am working on one of these. So it's not like we don't play these. If anybody is, probably going to be me. So
yeah. And to be fair, if this was 9 trailers in a row where they were like, a first-person puzzle game where progression is entirely gated by what you know, I'd be like salivating. So we all have our biases.
Yes, exactly.
The other thing I observed, and I'm curious if either of you clocked this either or felt this way, it is getting so, and I also say this acknowledging that the name of the showcase is Triple I, so they're calling out to AAA in a certain way. But it's getting so hard to even spot what an indie is. Some of the like visual fidelity on these games, there were games where you like they just looked like AAA games. Like, if you showed me the same trailer and told me it was an Ubisoft game, I wouldn't second guess you at all, because they look so detailed, so fantastic, like so like environmentally dense and rich, that I'm like, it must be so hard to compete in this space if this is like the expectation right now, because wow.
I truly wonder. I wonder if we put ourselves in a little bit of a corner because we do this indie thing, right?
Yeah.
These devs call themselves indie developers because they just aren't a big developer, but I don't necessarily know that they compete. They're like, oh, I'm competing against other indie. Like they're just competing against the market, right? And they're just like, here's my game. I'm going to make it look as shiny as possible because there are AAA games coming out that are also shiny. So I'm going to try to punch above my weight and do what I can. And if I sell X copies, that's actually going to make me successful. Whereas if they sell X copies, they're screwed, right? Like that's the big difference. You know, like the Claire Obscures of the world, which crushed. Like that's a little different.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't, and I don't think any of us really do. Most of the time, we just kind of stay away. Like they might be indie games, but if they're super, super high fidelity games, we don't typically play them for this.
Yeah, exactly. Something about, I sound very critical today, and I don't mean to, but something about an indie that is trying to just look and feel like a AAA game. I'm like, this is kind of what I was sort of in the mood to get away from when I chose an indie right now. So, most people don't think like that. Most people aren't probably segmenting them off in their head, like you're saying. They're just looking for a game, and they don't really care where it is. But yeah, I just, it's very clear looking at some of these that the budgets must still be in the millions of dollars. And so it's just an interesting observation that where the budget for a like mid to high fidelity indie now is probably the same or higher than the budget for a AAA game 15 years ago, 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, they're sort of, it feels like they're converging in a way.
Yes, but then there are still those Steam games that are sitting there with 15 reviews. That's what we're after most of the time, a lot of the time.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say, and also the funny one part of that is a lot of these indie developers are getting opportunities to do big IP. Like there's a Castlevania game in this direct thing, and it's like, are we gonna sit here and talk about a Castlevania game on IndieQuest? Probably not. It's an popular IP, but it is an indie studio making it, so it's kind of like on that weird balancing board. Because we like to we're trying to shine a light on the smaller stuff, and so when there's like, oh yeah, that's a Castlevania game, they got that Konami advertising. You know what I mean? It's Castlevania. You know.
Yeah, and we don't do that exclusively. Like we're going to talk about games later, and the game I brought is not a 15 review game on Steam. Like people will have heard the name of it, I'm sure. But yes, it is. It's just a little interesting observation. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
It's funny that Josh, you said they get big name IP, and I swear to God, this is true. My brain immediately went to Febraz making Bubsy 4D.
That too.
Where I was like, they got the Bubsy name. Completely forgot there's a Castlevania game in development by an indie studio.
That Bubsy would be an interesting one. I honestly probably would bring it here if it's good. We'll see.
I think that you could bring any Bubsy game, even the Super Nintendo ones, to IndieQuest, and it would feel like it counts. Those games have a stank to them that I appreciate.
I'm warning you both right now. If I see Bubsy come to this show, Shantae's coming shortly after. That's all I'm saying. So prepare.
Just 1-2 punch.
For it, all right?
The 1-2 punch there, right?
Yes.
Slides the written review out of his boot. And,
exactly.
All right, here we go.
I had a game, but we're talking about Shantae now.
Yeah, so that was Triple I.
Yeah, that was great. I think they do a really good job. And I know, like you said, there's a lot of crafting games, but still, good times. We're gonna get more of these. It's summertime's coming up, so I'm sure we'll be talking about trailers. It's always fun.
Mm-hmm.
But besides talking about trailers, we'd like to talk about indie games in general, and we do that by bringing games to our ever-growing list of indie recommendations called the Quest Log. The Quest Log has 2 sections to it. The main quest, which is a banger. It's an amazing game. It's at 10 out of 10. You got to tell everybody, your mom, your dad, your pet iguana, hey, come over here, jump on the couch, let's play this together because it's amazing. We also have the side quest, which is a game that's also a recommendation, but it might be closer to like an 8 out of 10. It's that B grade in high school, something along those lines. But the game is still awesome, and we still recommend it. Who wants to go first today?
Well, I'll tell you what. I actually have a pretty good segue this time. So
Take it away.
We were just talking about games that have 15 reviews on Steam, and I suppose I brought that up myself. So that's maybe I just
planted his own segue
made the segue. Yes, but we went into it a little bit more. Steve brought it back up. It's fine. This game doesn't have 15 reviews, but it does have a low amount of reviews. And to be honest, this is one of the most organically found games that I've had in quite some time. It was like the 2023 Captain Drachma finding indies, just diving into Steam and seeing what I wanted to play. Mostly because I played a different game that I didn't enjoy enough, and then I had a less amount of time to get through a game, so I'm like scrambling a little bit, which sometimes you uncover some gems that way. So I played a game that I doubt either of you have heard of. It is called Raider Kid and the Ruby Chest.
You know for a fact I've never heard
I brought that game. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't.
That would be awesome, though. Honestly, I would be so happy, Josh, if you had brought this game. While you guys make your way there and start to see some screenshots.
I've seen like a screenshot of this. I didn't know what it was, so I'm interested.
I can tell from the screenshots I already like this game.
Yes. It was released this year on March 31st. It was developed by Kakariko Games, and the platform is PC and Mac currently. I don't typically mention Mac, but there was a review for this game on Steam that was like, I can play it on Mac. And so I assume that doesn't happen often. I'm not a Mac user, so hey, there you go. If you're listening to this and you only have a Mac for whatever reason, then you can play Raider Kid and Ruby Chest. The genre is a Game Boy Color style mini-vania or gated exploration. I took that, again, from another Steam review, and I thought it was so wonderful. I love that. Mini-vania. It's so good. Basically a micro Metroidvania or gated exploration game. What does it look like? You guys are looking at screenshots. It literally looks like a Game Boy Color game to the point where there is, and you don't have to play it this way. You can make your whole screen be just the screen that you're seeing. Like, you know, you can make it fill your computer screen, but there is like a surround that goes around the screen that looks like a Game Boy Color. And I don't know if you guys are looking at it or at a screenshot right now, but if you look at like a big screenshot, the coolest thing about this, yeah, it's cool enough that they make it look like a mini screen on a Game Boy Color on your computer, but they also, the black that goes around the screen has like little scratches on it, just like your Game Boy Color would have, which is so fantastic. It just puts you into the game in such a cool and unique way. I think a lot of people are doing this thing now where they're trying to put you in that experience. Maybe like put a CRT filter on or put like a wood grain around the outside to make you feel like you're playing a CRT. But this is one of the most unique ways that I've ever had anyone attempt to do this, and I very much appreciate it. Moving on past that, there's also a very clean heads-up display. It's just got your life. It's got your number of javelins once you get to that point. I'm not going to spoil everything about what this game is going to get into, but you do end up getting a javelin, basically a spear, and you can keep track of how much ammo you have for that. The colors are amazing in this game. It truly does look like a Game Boy Color game. It looks like it could truly play on a Game Boy Color. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but it gives you that color palette that you kind of remember. And the developers even say that they were going for as close to as possible to that Game Boy Color feel, that 8-bit handheld game feel, and it really delivers on that. The music, as you can imagine, excellent, amazing. 8-bit chiptunes, just top to bottom. Every single new area has a new tune, and they were all so good. The water level especially was just, once I got into that level and you started seeing more of, eventually you can interact with the water in certain ways, as you might imagine, as you typically can do in some of these gated exploration type games, but just some of the best chiptunes, specific chiptune music that I've heard in quite a while. I think we get a lot of hybrid chiptunes, but not specific. Like, we are doing it so that you know the kind of game you're playing, and we want to make sure you have that exact experience. We're not throwing any electric guitar at you. No, this is just chip tunes, and they nailed it. They did an excellent job. It gives you that like adventurous feeling, right? I'm going on an adventure, and it really drives that feeling home. As you can imagine, the story of a game like this isn't overly important, certainly. You play as a kid named Alex. You are going on a vacation to these ruins. They're like Aztec ruins. I'm not entirely sure if they said Aztec or not, but that's kind of the feeling you get. You're going with your parents. You're on like this tour bus, and you end up getting to one of the ruins, and your parents are watching this tour guide as the tour guide is explaining stuff. They do a good job with the dialogue of this game. They make it so it's like, oh, I'm in this 10-year-old's head. They're like, oh, look at this stone. Well, how about this stone? But what about this stone? And then it's like blah, blah, blah. And you're obviously bored. So as you're playing as Alex, once you can actually get control, you walk away and you walk into the ruins and you start going on your own adventure. You eventually find a whip, and then off you go, right? You're going down many different paths. You're falling in pits, and we're going to start talking about that in the gameplay section proper here. Before I get there, I guess I will say that there are several different cutscenes. None of them last more than a couple lines, and they all have quite funny puns and things like that. So very, very good, very 90s charm in that way. Any questions that you guys have on anything you've seen or anything I've said before I talk about the gameplay proper?
No questions. You know, it's funny because oftentimes for these games you bring where I've never heard of them, all I can go off of is the visuals that I see in the trailer. So it's usually what jumps out to me. But I will say, this, like, for folks that are like driving or can't look up a trailer for this, Raider Kid and Ruby Chest does not look... It is not calling back to the style of a Game Boy Color game. It is so genuinely Game Boy Color that I literally just Googled to see if there was like a physical edition of a homebrew copy for the GBC, because they got some very subtle things right about how enemies like flash when you hit them, and like there's a weird thing that would happen on certain Game Boy Color games and certain tile sets where like a collectible object or an interactable object wouldn't be transparent around the edges, so you would still see it as like a square tile, even if it was like a circle inside that tile that was the thing, because it was a limitation of the hardware. And they even do that in some instances here. So very clearly somebody that grew up and cared a lot about Game Boy Color, which is cool, as I am also someone that grew up with the Game Boy Color being my first handheld system.
I was just gonna say, when I was watching the trailer, it instantly made me think Spelunky if it was on Game Boy Color. Period. But that's what I was thinking because of the whip and the vibes. You know,
It does have Spelunky vibes. It is not even close to as hard as Spelunky. I will say.
I wouldn't think so. That game is so tough.
Yes, quite a breezy game, especially compared to that game. But to your point, Steve, about the hardware limitations. There is like sprite flicker, and it happens fairly often. And unlike in the past where that was a limitation of the hardware and they didn't want the sprite flicker, they literally had to go out of their way to put it in, which is, it's just, we are making graphical infidelity occur so that you have nostalgia, which is amazing. They did a very good job with this because there are a lot of developers who make games like this, probably because they're maybe they're a little bit easier to develop than what we were talking about earlier with the AAA and the shiniest game you've ever seen, but it's still indie. This maybe I'm not a developer, so don't come at me, bro, but I imagine is slightly easier to make than something like that. But to put the amount of detail that goes into it, it's some incredible stuff, and it cannot be appreciated enough. This is, and I was kind of hinting at it when we were talking about the AAA, this is the type of game that I look for more often than not. So, all right. onto the gameplay. And to be honest, this is going to be a fairly simple section because it's an action adventure gated exploration game like we've played a lot of times, but it does have its own unique twists, I suppose. So you get that whip, and you can whip stuff. That is your main weapon. You can obviously jump. You eventually get a hammer, and that hammer allows you to hit enemies, but you have to charge. So you don't typically use the hammer in a combat situation. More often than not, you're using it to attempt to break walls, blocks, things like that. Oftentimes you'll end up seeing like a block that looks cracked, and it's like, okay, I'm going to be able to go break that and move through. But there are obviously many, many secrets in this game. And you're using that hammer on every single tile block that you see ever. And it is the most satisfying thing. It's almost less satisfying when they don't break, because so many of them do. And that's just, to me, that's like the essence of what a good Metroidvania does. It's give me that little nibble here and there of an extra little room that doesn't show up on the map. Doesn't make any sense because I can see the map. I should have mentioned the map presentation. The map is excellent. It's of course an 8-bit map, but more often than not, you can be in a room that just shows darkness to the right, but you can actually burrow into that right side, because if you find that block, you're going to end up coming through. And the cool thing is, once you get into that next room might show a path going back to the other room, but not the other way around. That way, the secret is still there. It's not showing you every secret on the map if you just check it all the time, which I very much appreciate. There's a whole bunch of items that you get to use in this game that I don't want to spoil, mostly because, as I mentioned at the top, this is a mini-vania. This is a small gated exploration game. It took me about an hour and a half to beat it, and about maybe a little north of 2 hours to 100% it. And it is extremely worth finding everything. Like, this is one of those types where you feel like there's some unfinished business if you don't go back and get it figured out and see that ending cutscene. So extremely worth it. Not a long game at all. So it's very worth doing. The gates in this game mostly are, sometimes they're the hammer where you can just hammer through something and then that's like a loose gate. But oftentimes you just need that extra ability of some kind to get through it, as in a lot of these games. There's a few puzzles. For the most part, it is action forward, action first. I will say in the later sections of the games, there are some very unique and interesting puzzles that were completely optional, which I thought is really cool. Like, throw some of the coolest puzzles in the whole game in a section that some people might not even play. Although I think, based on the Steam achievements, I think that the majority of people have played through this entire game, because like the people who have 100%ed it were like 40%. So almost half of people have gone through the whole thing. A lot of old school platforming, but it doesn't punish you. You don't get hurt from falling. The only thing you get hurt from is hitting enemies. Early on, you can't jump into water, but as you can imagine, eventually you get some abilities to help you deal with that. But it is pretty frictionless. I died several times, mostly to bosses, but the bosses were all super unique, fun. Boss sprites were excellent. To Steve's point, there was that flicker going on every time you'd hit a boss, and they do the when you hit them, and they make so the noises. It is so good. And it's one of those like classic GBC platformer type games that does exactly what you want it to do. This would be, before I even get to my verdict, this would be an absolute hidden gem of hidden gems. Metal Jesus would be talking about this game if it came out in 1998 for the Game Boy Color. There's no doubt in my mind. Another couple little cleanup things. There are some save points. You can't just save anywhere. You have to literally whip a floppy disk, which is super cool in these save rooms.
That's fun.
Love it.
They're like made of rock. Yes. And eventually you do get the ability to fast travel, but it is quite late. You don't feel the need to do it early on, though. It feels a little bit more linear than your average Gale exploration early until you eventually get an item, and this will be for the completionist people out there. You eventually get an item that allows you to put it on the map, and you kind of are able to use a cursor to go around the map, and it's basically like an item finder in Pokemon. It starts beeping faster if you get close to an item that's still on the map, which I think is excellent. In Crypt Custodian, I've always praised Crypt Custodian for just when the game's done, it shows me where the items are and I can just go there, which I very much appreciate. This almost takes it a step further where it gamifies it a little bit. It almost has like a little mini game where you kind of have to go over things. You're like, oh, there's an item there, and then you can kind of fast travel and make your way there and kind of figure out where it was. Where did you miss it? Or maybe you always saw it on screen, but you forgot to go back, right? Like, oh, I got to go back and do that thing, but then you forget 20 minutes later that thing was still there. So very cool in that way. Not at all a hard game to 100% because it helps you quite a lot, but doesn't do too much to make you feel like it's just holding your hand. So with that, I am going to put it on the quest log unless either of you have anything to say before I do.
I'm just excited to see where you place it. It's a nice, short, snappy game. It sounds like less than $10. So I love it when games like that can show up here.
Yes, $8 game. I bought it at full pop because, as I mentioned, it's got 75-ish reviews. Currently 100% on Steam, which with only 75 reviews, you don't really know. Like half of those could be some like paid review. You don't know, right? Exactly, but still quite good. That no one has thumbs down this game. And to that point, I am easily going to put this game on the main quest. This is a awesome main quest game. And it is also the type of game where I could have just as easily put it on the side quest if I were sticking to, well, it's not very long. And it isn't. But the quality, it just screams quality. Every little detail. They just didn't screw anything up. It is so good. I think that we may end up getting talk about this game at the end of the year for the GOTY list. I'm not entirely sure it would be number one necessarily, but I'm fairly confident that this will be a top 10 type game for me at year's end. So yeah, that is Raider Kid. Yes, you should.
Sold me.
I'm adding it to my 2026 games to play list. So
you both should. Yes, I am praying that this game comes to PlayStation because I will play it again. And I feel like that console experience would be fun. But you both should absolutely play this game sooner rather than later and experience it for yourselves. I would love to talk to you about it. So that is Raider Kid and the Ruby Chest, and it is a main quest.
Love that.
Oh, yeah.
See, this is the type of game I want the captain to be bringing. This is like Seth 101 here. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, to the point where I brought a more popular gated exploration game in Sheepo only a couple episodes ago, and for my money, I prefer this game to over Sheepo. So that's pretty good company.
Beautiful. All right, well, I can go next, Josh, unless you would prefer I close this out. You let me know.
You go. You got this.
You want me to go?
Yeah.
All right. I appreciate the vote of confidence. We don't usually hype each other up before we go. Should do a little more of that. Feels good. I'm not even going to beat around the bush. Fellas, I'm bringing in Super Meat Boy 3D. I'm obviously going to be bringing Super Meat Boy 3D. There's no world where I couldn't bring Super Meat Boy 3D.
Never heard of it.
So, never heard of it? I got great news. I'm about to spend 15 dense minutes making you hear of it.
Okay.
Meat Boy 3D is developed by Team Meat and by Sluggerfly, which is the developer of a game I have not played but I've heard of called Hellpie, which I think also has some precision platformer energy. But it seemed to have been a collaborative effort. I think Sluggerfly was kind of the lead developer on this game. So, in the continued tradition of Bubsy and Castlevania, it's an indie studio being handed a popular IP. It just so happens to be a popular indie IP in this case. It is published by Head Up. It released March 31st of this year, which is the exact same day as Raider Kid and the Ruby Chest, so everyone has to spec in one of two directions. And it's available on pretty much everything that is new: Xbox Series, PS5, PC, and Switch 2. So you have to have the latest hardware. But if you do, you can play it. So, Super Meat Boy 3D. Not even going to give you a story setup. Nobody needs to know the story. It's Super Meat Boy. Bandage Girl is kidnapped and you're going to get Bandage Girl. What we need to know, and what this game desperately wants us to know, is how does it translate to 3 dimensions, and how does it compare to the original game? Well, let's talk about your movement kit first of all. The very first thing you're going to notice when you boot into stage 1-1 is that Super Meat Boy 3D has spent a lot of time very meticulously matching the physics of Super Meat Boy to 3-dimensional space. Seems like it should be impossible, but all of the floatiness that Meat Boy has when you're jumping, the momentum, the distance of jumps, the level of stickiness on a wall, and the distance traveled when you wall jump, all of that matches very closely to the original game, to the point where I was able to almost lean on my muscle memory from the original game to give me a head start in this one. And they did bring in, for folks that played Super Meat Boy Forever, so I guess if folks are not super familiar with the Super Meat Boy series, Super Meat Boy proper was a precision 2D platformer. Super Meat Boy Forever came out. It was still a precision 2D platformer, but it was randomized. Its levels were randomized. They're built out of randomized chunks that got stitched together. So it was almost kind of roguelite-y. And then Meat Boy 3D is back to just being a pure precision platformer. There's no randomization. But one of the abilities from Forever that they brought into this game is an air dash. So you can jump, and then you can press square or square on PlayStation to do an air dash, which is nice in 3D because it gives you a little more, lets you cover a little extra distance. It gives you a little more travel time, and also just gives you the opportunity to do a little bit of correction if you're slightly off on a jump. Now that there's one extra axis for you to be slightly off on, it's nice that you can realize, I'm going to hit that panel slightly to the right. I can air dash kind of at an angle, and I'll be okay.
If I imagine the devs probably figured, if you need to jump an extra time, it's fine, because you might finish the level, but you're not going to ace the level if you jump too often like that, right? If you're floating. So that makes sense, right? Let everybody have some fun and not make it the most torturous thing ever, but yeah.
Yep, exactly. And just like the first game, there is a big focus on speed, like you just said. You will probably, the first time you get through the level, not meet any sort of par time, but every level does have a par time. And if you finish that, you get the 8+, and then that will unlock a Dark World version of that level, which is a harder version of that level that you can then play. So you're sort of incentivized to speed run every level, because it basically unlocks the second half of the game. I don't think you ever need to interact with the Dark World to finish the game at all. But if you're in for a certain amount of pain that is Super Meat Boy, you're probably going to want to play another set of levels in the Dark World. So you'll want to, at least for the levels you enjoy or the mechanics that you'll enjoy, you'll want to go for those A+. The structure of the game is very similar to the original, but there's some little minor differences. The main one is that now there's looks like an overworld map that you can explore. Rather than just being a selectable list of stages, it's Meat Boy running around, and you can run up on top of a stage and warp into it, which just gives you a little more autonomy about what you're going to be doing or in between levels. And then in the levels, you're incentivized to do several different things. One is, like I mentioned, you want to speedrun the level. You want to get the A+ time. 2 is every single level in the game has a hidden bandage. So you collect the bandages. At X number of bandages, you'll unlock hidden bonus characters. The characters are, just like in the original game, the characters are often cameos from other games. Some characters from the original Super Meat Boy return. There are some new ones for games that came out since, or other properties that they have, gotten on board with the Super Meat Boy train. So it's always fun to see what characters you can unlock. And as in Super Meat Boy tradition, each of those characters have slightly different physics, slightly different movesets. They might have floatier jumps, or some might have a double jump, or some might move faster but have less of a jump. One of them is a meatball that is always bouncing like a rubber ball for some reason.
Love it.
So who knows? There's all sorts of weird stuff going on in that game. But you want to find the bandages so you can find the other characters, especially because some of the later unlocked special characters, namely the ones with the double jumps, are like, they basically are just game breaking. It's very clear that they designed the entire game assuming you were going to be playing as Meat Boy, because when you get a second jump in addition to also having that dash, you're able to like bypass so many of the obstacles in the game, or like get up onto things that the game didn't. Well, they probably anticipated you get up onto, but the design of the level would suggest that's not what you're supposed to be doing. It's very satisfying to be able to like circumvent and cheese and navigate around the obstacles to go a little faster. It makes you feel like you're getting one up on the game in a way that's kind of fun.
Do you have a Meat Boy time? Like, does every individual character have their own time, or is it just the one time? And so if you have the busted characters, you can just blow that time out of the water if you want to.
Yep, exactly. There are definitely certain characters that will be the fastest, and people will gravitate to them. In an interesting twist, there's a character, I think his name is Nate, that I believe, again, I haven't played the game, but I believe is the main character of Hell Pie, the game that Sluggerfly developed prior to Meat Boy. And Nate seems pretty objectively like the best character. Like, has a double jump and is also kind of the fastest, where I'm like, did you guys put your thumb on the scale a little bit here? Did you want to make sure that a lot of streams and screenshots would have Nate featured prominently? More power to you if that's what you did.
Yeah,
it's an interesting marketing tactic to be like, let's get people to go play our old game by making a character they've probably never heard of more intriguing to them. It worked for me. I was like, maybe I should go play Hell Pie. You earned my vote. Why the heck not?
It is Nate. I went and looked.
It is. The name is
nice.
It is Nate. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
He doesn't look like a Nate. He's like a little demon cow with a skull on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Got
That's
like
the
a
guy.
chain or something.
Yep.
He looks friendly enough.
Yes.
So the game is structured into 5 different worlds. Each world has 15 stages, so slightly less stages than the original game had. But it makes sense because I imagine they're more involved to produce, being in 3D. And you don't really ever feel... The game does feel a little snappier, a little quicker to get through than the original Super Meat Boy. But you won't notice it too much. The 15 stages still give you pretty confident spread of levels with different mechanics and things for you to learn. And then at the end of every set of 15 stages... Actually, you only have to beat 11 of them, I think, in a world, but I've just finished all 15 for every world. You'll unlock a boss fight that you then need to complete in order to unlock the next world and the next set of levels. The boss fight is almost always a run away from. Very rarely are you ever fighting the boss. This was true in the original Meat Boy too. It's a game with no combat system, so for them to have a boss fight, it's usually just an auto-scroller that you're avoiding its attacks for long enough until the boss stumbles and falls into a lava pit or whatever. It's just basically another Meat Boy level. Going back, though, to the 3 things that you're going to do in a level. A+ times, you can look for the bandages, and then you're going to be hunting down the warp zones, which are hidden levels that are hidden in out-of-the-way places in random levels. And each of those warp zones is usually tied to one of the guest characters, and is often themed around the world of that character. And so you're playing through kind of like a parody of another character's game to unlock that character. It's interesting. I'll give the example of the first one, which is, I think, probably the only one in the game where they didn't actually have the rights to this character. But the first one that you find pretty early in the game is a very legally distinct recreation of Bomb Battlefield from Super Mario 64.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely not copyright infringing, distinct in many ways, but similar in many others. And when you finish that level, you unlock Super Meat Boy 3D, who has the triple jump that Mario has from Super Mario 64, where you like jump a little higher, jump much higher, and do some like flips as you jump.
Nice.
So you can like run and line up his jumps that way. That one, you know, he's not wearing a Mario cap or anything. They probably didn't want to fly too close to the sun. But all the rest of them, I don't want to give away because they're fun reveals. But they're characters that you'll probably recognize from various places. And Nate, who you will not recognize because how many of you really played Hellpie before this? Let's be honest.
I was surprised to see that there are 1,000 Steam reviews for that game. So, you know, it's popular enough, I suppose.
All right.
Yeah. I see it discounted a lot, like in bundles. Like Fanatical will have Hellpie. Just, let's throw it in a pile of 10. You know, that's how a lot of people end up playing those type of games, but that's fine.
Yep.
But that's where I see it the most because, I'm on the Warrior 64s looking through what the deals are of the day, sometimes. So, there's Hellpie there. That's how I found out.
Exactly. And then, that's how I found a lot of my favorite games is a humble bundle that just planted 8 games into my library, and then you go explore later. The big thing, so I guess all that is like the setup of what you're doing in the game. The minute to minute, the challenge I would say is pretty good. It is, for my money, a little easier than the original game, and I don't think that's just my experience with these games being stronger. I do genuinely think that it is easier as a game. Like, as one data point in that, the original Super Meat Boy has a relatively infamous platinum trophy for being difficult because it requires that you finish every world, all 20 levels in a world without dying to get a trophy, and there's one trophy for each world, each of like the 10 worlds. So you have to basically no death run every world in the game. And so the platinum trophy has like a sub 1% rate because it's just so hard to do. Super Meat Boy 3D has the exact same trophies in it. They basically mirrored the trophy list of the original Super Meat Boy, so you need to complete each set of 15 levels and the boss fight in a row without dying to earn a trophy for each of the 5 light worlds and each of the 5 dark worlds. But already Super Meat Boy 64 has like a 4 or a 5 or like a 6% platinum rarity. So people are obviously able, and they were getting the platinum within like the first 3 days. So it's an easier game to learn and an easier game to get good at, and an easier game to cheese with some of those characters to make some of the levels less deadly.
If it is at 5% now, I can imagine it'll be 15-20% before long. As long as people keep sticking it out. So
yeah, and there's that, not to go full trophy hunting talk for a second here, but there's a certain weird bias where if a game is hard but doable, the percentage chance on the trophies for the platinum tend to go up more than you'd think. So games like Elden Ring have like a 15% or a 50% platinum rate or something crazy, because everyone just goes hard at it and wants to overcome the challenge. But all the same, it was my experience even before looking any of those numbers up that I felt like the game was a little easier. There were several levels throughout the game that I was able to beat my first try. Most I died during, but I would often only die 2-3 times in a level before I was able to finish it. Whereas, some of those Super Meat Boy levels, you finish it and they show you that video afterwards of all of your attempts, and it's just 200 chunks of meat throwing themselves into all the same saws. Here it was like, on the harder levels, maybe 12 chunks of meat, and on the easier levels, just a couple. So, more doable. But at the same time, also more frustrating, because the big thing that is tough about this game is judging depth, like judging distance. It's in 3D, but you have no camera control. It plays, I think that they even said that they were inspired by Super Mario 3D World, where it's like a three-dimensional level that is sort of on a hallway track, and the camera just follows you along as you go. And the camera usually follows you great, does a great job of keeping an eye on where you are. It keeps up with you. But if you ever need to jump or land on or off of a wall that is angled at or near like the angle of the camera, or even just like, it can be hard to tell, is this at a 30-degree angle or at a 45-degree angle? And it can be hard to tell if you don't have anything like around you. It can be hard to tell, am I almost at the wall, or is the wall further away than I think and I'm only halfway there? And so it's very easy to, on your first couple of attempts, take some L's as you try to figure out exactly how far away things are, or try to line up jumps that are not quite consistent with the way that the camera is presenting that particular part of the stage. They give you a couple of accessibility options to tweak that. They give you like a permanent circle underneath your character, and they give you you can turn on like a dotted line that connects where Meat Boy is to the ground. So you can see like where over the ground you are. And also you can turn on like a permanent outline to the character. But none of that really solves the problem of walls being the thing that's hard to judge. Like, it helps judge distance to landing on the ground, but so much of a Meat Boy level is usually jumping from wall to wall to wall, avoiding saws and spikes and stuff, that you're gonna struggle to like get it down just off of intuition. You're gonna need to kind of learn distances sometimes. And that seems to be a pretty common concern I've heard from people. I like poked around and looked at some other reviews and some other like reactions to this game, and almost everybody had the same problem where they're like, am I bad at games, or is the depth perception in this one weird? Like, haven't I played a bunch of 3D games before? But something about this one, it's just hard to tell.
Yeah. I played some of this. I got to, I think, the third world, and I played some of the hidden worlds too, the A+ worlds, dark worlds as well. Yeah. I agree. It just feels, especially when you get to the harder versions, those levels are shorter, but it feels like there's a lot more things to like plan out, and there's a lot more moving platforms and stuff. I was struggling a little bit more on those because I jump and I'm like, I'm going to land there, not quite hit it, and then not be able to bounce off the right way to get to the next platform. It still feels like Meat Boy though, which is, I guess that's the big draw, if you want some more Meat Boy, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, it is. We'll talk about it in sort of my wrap-up thoughts. It is pretty rigidly adhering to the original Super Meat Boy. Mm-hmm. But there's a couple other things I want to mention, but before I move away from just like the general game feel, the flow of the game, I'm curious if you guys have any questions.
I watched you stream it. You kind of mentioned it. It is a very pretty game. It isn't like the prettiest game I've ever played, but I think that's the point. Like, it's like a really good looking PS3 game. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
kind of, yeah.
Yes. So that actually segues me like directly into my next bullet point in the game, is that it is hard to compare a game like the original Super Meat Boy with gorgeous pixel art to a three-dimensional game. But I do think that Super Meat Boy 3D, something about it is a pretty game, like Seth said, but it's also kind of an ugly game at the same time. It feels very Unreal Engine-y to me. The way I described it on stream is that it feels, you can see all the component pieces that make it a video game. Like, you understand, like, this is a box that has been modeled with a texture. It has like a ukulele energy about the whole thing, where you just like, it just doesn't quite cohere exactly the way you'd want it to. And so sometimes that makes the visual language of the level harder to read and harder to navigate. But a lot of times it was more that I was like, man, I wish this looked 15% better, which seems like kind of cold of me to say, but I noticed it repeatedly.
Yeah, it gives me, and this may very well not be at all true, and I'm not trying to like slight the developer in any way, but it presents as ever so slightly rushed. Like they didn't quite file down the rough edges, and they were like, it's good enough, and here you go. So
yeah, I would agree with that. And there are moments where you're like, wow, that looks great, and then there are moments where you're like, I don't know, that looks okay.
Yeah.
So. I don't know, Josh, you played half the game. How did you feel about that?
I was going to say the cutscenes are like, so like you join in, you're like, oh my God, this looks like a Pixar movie. And then it does that whole trick where you switches the gameplay and you're like, I guess. It kind of looks like the PS3 Ratatouille game vibes, versus the Pixar movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
something like that.
That's
funny.
A really good comparison. Yeah. The cutscenes are all, they must have been outsourced to some other studio because they're all this like very high production. And it is a real splash of cold water in the face, both when it cuts back to gameplay, but also in between stages when one starts up, because it'll just like hard smash cut to this entirely different art style out of nowhere. And you're like, oh, okay. You watch that and then it's back to the PS2 Ratatouille.
Sometimes I will say there are some hazards in the environment that you don't really, just because of how noisy it can be sometimes, you like jump into it thinking, oh, that's a wall. Oh, no, wait, no, that's razor wire, or something like that. And you're like, okay, now that texture, that's bad. I got to avoid that texture, So there's a little bit of that here and there. Yeah.
Yeah, there was, early in the game, I was struggling. I couldn't understand what walls I was allowed to jump off of and what ones I wasn't.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what got me over that problem. As I played more, eventually that stopped being an issue. But early in the game, I was often I would try to jump into a wall and you just slide off because this is when they didn't want you to jump off of. And I'd be like, there's nothing visually to me that indicated that this was not supportive of a sticky piece of meat jumping off of it. So, I don't know. So, visually, it's all right. It's okay.
Yeah.
Then the soundtrack, this is going to be very personal for people. This is another one I'm going to ask Josh what he thought, because it's by Ridiculon, who did the soundtrack to Eugenics recently, has done the soundtrack of a bunch of the music for Binding of Isaac. They have a history with this series. But to me, none of it stuck out to me. It was very... The way that I wrote in my notes is it was very wheedly-deedly. It just felt like guitars and it never had a memorable hook the way I wanted a Meat Boy song to.
Yeah. I will say this is basically somebody, the vibes I get is somebody trying to recall the Super Meat Boy, the original Super Meat Boy soundtrack and make it again from their memory. Yeah. That's kind of what I get from this, but there's nothing super memorable about it. I would say there. It was kind of okay. Because the first one, there's catchy songs. They'll be stuck in your head. If you're stuck on a stage, hey, at least the song's jamming, in the original one. There's not much of that here.
Yeah. I agree 100%. It's so fun. I'm so happy you said that. We're going to circle back on that in just a minute. I'll give you my closing thoughts now, but
okay.
Any other thoughts that the two of you have? Any other questions that you have before I get there?
Worth playing through to the end, because I kind of I started playing other stuff. I was like, okay, that I know what that is. I think so. I know what it is. So when I'm in the mood, I'll play a few stages here and there, make my way through it. It's fun. I think it's solid. But honestly, if you haven't played Super Meat Boy Original, I would just say go play that first. But if you're itching for more, that would be my opinion. So if you're itching for more and you're like, yeah, let's jump on in. There are little tiny caveats, here and there, like we were mentioning. But we'll see where Steve puts it on the quest log.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll mention, and even on your stream, Steve, I think we kind of hinted towards this, or you talked about this a little bit, but maybe it's more of a question than anything. Who did it better, the Super Meat Boy team or Celeste? And maybe you can talk about that. But what I will say is I've watched a decent amount of this game, and I've played the 3D thing that the Celeste team did, and it could be that this is $25 and that was free, but that was a very charming experience. Where this feels different than that, I guess. So, yeah, I don't know.
I would take Celeste 3D, I think. Celeste 64.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, so in closing, people might be a little annoyed with me because as I talked about this game, like 20 different times, I compared it to the original Super Meat Boy. And I understand that this is a sequel, but there's probably some people screaming at their, I don't know, what, iPod video, however people listen to podcasts. I'm not your boss, not your dad. Screaming at me saying, okay, but just like review it and give me on its own merits, review it. And I think that is essentially impossible because this game is so, like, it is adhering so rigidly to the original structure of the first game. It so badly wants you to know that it knows the original Super Meat Boy that it almost loses some of its own identity. Like, I talked about this on Polykill, but the levels are structured in the exact same order. Like, the vibes, the environments of the world are in the exact same order as the original game. You start in a forest world. The second world in Super Meat Boy was a hospital with a bunch of like needles and stuff everywhere. This is a junkyard that just happens to have a bunch of rebar and stuff everywhere that sure has the same color palette as the hospital. You go to a factory, you go to a fiery hell world, you go to a city, like very exact same level flow. Almost all of the mechanics from the original Meat Boy make a return here in Super Meat Boy 3D. Every like the way that you unlock levels, the side characters, everything is like 1-to-1 with the original Super Meat Boy in a way that feels to me, and I know that this is a different studio than made Super Meat Boy Forever, but it feels like when Super Meat Boy Forever and people said you've strayed from what we want Super Meat Boy to be, this was like a course correction where they're basically let's remake our best album and give people exactly what we think they want but in 3D. And in doing that, it loses a little bit of its own identity. Like it sort of forces you to draw comparisons then between the original game where 3D almost always comes up shy, comes up a little bit short. It's like it's a lot of 7 out of 10 energy going up against a lot of 10 out of 10 energy. And what I wanted to circle back on what Josh said, he says it's someone trying to recall from memory the Super Meat Boy soundtrack. I'll read verbatim from my notes, my closing thoughts. I said, this feels like a 3D retelling of the original game by someone who can't quite recall the details. It's an echo of a legend told by someone that was told by someone that doesn't remember exactly what that first one was like. It is a fantastically fun game to play when things are going well, but the entire time there is like an unshakable feeling of I would probably just rather play the original one at the end of the day. I like it quite a bit. Like, there's still a very real chance it'll show up in my top 10 at the end of the year. You know, I think it's quite a solid game, but I think most people, it's weird. It's hard to recommend this game to someone that doesn't already have an appreciation for Super Meat Boy, the original. But I also think that everyone that's played the original Super Meat Boy will like this one less by comparison. So it's stuck between a rock and a hard place. So it's a side quest. It's a fun experience. It's worth checking out. Your mileage may vary, but that's where I'm at.
When I played the demo for this on Steam Next Fest, I was like, this is going to be a main quest. Because I played like 4 levels, because they like kind of drop you into 4 random levels. I'm like, this game rules. This is like what I want, you know, the more Super Meat Boy. But it just ended up being to where I'm playing it. So my thought was I'm gonna start playing this and like play everything, beat it really fast. I put like 3 hours in, and then like maybe another hour or something another night, and I'm like, this is okay. It's just not grabbing me like I expected it to. So that was a bit of a bummer, but I will definitely roll credits. I'll definitely play all the stages. I don't know if I'll 100% everything, but I will definitely get through this one. Makes me think if this is successful, I think it probably is. What if they did another one of these, but they took a little bit more time and made like a very unique like palettes and unique settings and environments and hazards, maybe add a new like power up system, or add like new tricks or something. Like, do something fun and wacky with Super Meat Boy. It doesn't need to be this again, But if they made like a DLC or a sequel, I'd like to see what a new idea spin on this would be.
Yes. If they did the same, if this same studio took another crack at it, spent a little more time ironing out some of the rougher patches like the depth perception, and had their hand forced to be like, okay, we already did the recreation of Super Meat Boy. Now we have to do our own thing, put our own spin on it. I think that would be really cool. At the end of the day, I mean, I finished a game and like I gobbled it up in 3 days. I liked my time with it. When you strip away all the other stuff that I talked about, all the other problems the game does have, like the core act of navigating Super Meat Boy through a level is still fun. It is still good to do. I just think that, there's a lot of stuff around like orbiting around that core that could be polished up, improved, or I would just like to see them take some bigger swings. So, yeah. Side quest, but cool game.
Nice.
All right. Well, I'm bringing a game. It's also a 2026 game. It came out February 6th, so just a month before you guys.
There you go.
Month and change. It's called Creature Kitchen.
Oh.
You guys seen this one? Little raccoon on the cover.
Thank God I didn't play this game, Josh. I was very close. I was like, I might just play Creature Kitchen. But Josh said he was probably going to play it, so should I play it? So, good. Yes, I'm happy to hear about it.
So here we are. I would call this game a creepy-ish game. It builds itself as a horror game, right? When you watch the trailer, you think it's going to be really spooky the whole time. But when you get into it, okay, so it's like PS1 style graphics, or that era mouth-washing vibes where everything's a little jaggedy. Like it looks like it's stripped right out of the 90s. You're just in first-person view. You're at this shack in the middle of the woods. It's the middle of the night. There's a bunch of like things scampering in your periphery. You're not sure what's going on. You think something is going to jump out at you. Get in there. You start exploring the kitchen a little bit. And you discover a cookbook in there with a camera right next to it, or in like the cupboard above it. And there are pictures that you can take throughout the areas to collect these creatures and cook meals for them. So that's basically what the whole premise of the game is. And as you're playing, at first you think like, okay, this is creepy. And then a cute character just walks in. So you're like, oh, this is more of a cozy game than a creepy horror game. This is a game you play on September 30th, right before you get into spooky season. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But have you played the game yet, Seth, or anything? Or what?
I haven't. I've only seen the screenshots you're referring to, and they all seem like they're leaning towards that this is a little unsettling. So it kind of does that rug pull in the opposite direction then, where it's like, oh, you're going to be kind of creeped out. And they're like, nah, just kidding. We're just going to be wholesome this whole time, which I've heard that. You didn't spoil that for me. I had already heard that. So that's kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah, it does say it doesn't even say horror in the actual like tags. It says cozy, relaxing, first person, cute, nature. Mm-hmm. But I do think it does kind of if you're not really knowing what you're going to get into, the vibes when you first start, you're like, this is scary because all the characters in it are scary. Like, so for example, there's the book, you open up the book, it'll have like a picture of a hallway and you're like, okay, I'll go to the hallway, and if I can capture this ghost dude, it'll tell me what I need to cook for that person. So there's like a triangle. It looks like the glyph guy from Gravity Falls or something that you could take a picture of in that hallway. And he wants Italian food. So you can walk around the outside or the inside of this cabin, and you'll find recipe cards all over the place. So, I found a pizza. I found spaghetti and meatballs. So now I got to follow the recipes inside your little recipe book. Okay, well, I need tomatoes. Where are tomatoes? You just explore until you find all the recipe items you need. And then you can go to the counter. If you need to make toast, you can chop it. Or if you need to chop up tomatoes, it'll say sliced tomatoes. So you can go and do a little cutting mini game. Put it inside so basically everything cooks inside the oven, no matter what it is. Cereal, whatever, anything cooks inside there. So you make the items to be like 2 sliced tomatoes, pasta, and then probably like salt or flour or something like that. You put it in there, let it go, and it'll make a sauce and make you a spaghetti and meatball instantly right there. And then you feed it to the creature, and then you kind of like unlock a key that'll unlock a new area of this storage. There's like a storage shed on the outside, and then inside the actual main kitchen, there's like 4 doors to open up and some cabinets to unlock other recipe ingredients and other characters you can take pictures of. So kind of do that loop over and over again until you meet all the different creatures in the environment. There's some really cool surprises, and all of them are technically creepy creatures, quote unquote, but mostly you're just going to think they're cute. You're like, okay, there's this giant octopus dude in the trees. Any other game you'd be scared, but here you're like, that dude's just chilling. He's cool as hell. He's cute, you know? And that's just the whole vibe of the game. It's just a nice 3 to 4 hour, just explore a whole thing, collect a bunch of stuff, and feed a bunch of creatures around this cabin. And then there's a nice, really good, chill ending to the whole thing. So, nice little game. Any questions for me so far for this one?
Nothing from me other than it looks cool as hell, and I'm just so surprised at how popular this game is. That's like what's really flooring me.
I don't remember how I first saw it. Maybe it was in some sort of like AAA type showcase at some point, but I know I heard of this game outside of just finding it on Steam. So I imagine that's how it got so much traction, but I don't remember how that was.
We had a campfire chat that mentioned it. That's how I first heard about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't know if that's when I first heard it. I saw it on like one of those like coming to Steam this month videos probably too.
Okay.
So, yeah. But the game was really surprising to me. I enjoyed it quite a bit. It's not a very deep game. Once you learn the loop and you figure everything out, you're going to easily 100% this without sweating at all. It's not like obscure things. There's literally a book that says, there's a bush. Maybe you should go put a dog toy out over there in that bush area by the dog kennel, and the dog might come out, and you take a picture of the dog, and the dog wants I think it's 3 meals with beef in it, and then you go, okay, what recipes do I have that have beef? Let's cook all 3 of them. And when you cook it, it turns into a little doggy bag. You see like a really high fidelity version of it, like right when you cook it. And it kind of looks like, how Ren and Snippy does like those like super smash zooms on their face where it's super realistic.
Yeah.
Does that. And then you get a little doggy bag for each of the things, and you just put it on the plate next to, or even just next to the creature that you're trying to feed. And then when you solve that puzzle, a very simple puzzle usually, you get a key, and then you just move on. Okay, well, now I got the freezer. There's ice in here, and there's various things I can make with ice now. I can make ice cream, etc. So it ends up being a really just simple and fun loop. And nice cozy afternoon game, I'd say. So the only other thing I wanted to comment on is there is music, but it's very sparse. Mostly it's just, I think they want to play up the creepy factor at least at the beginning, and it kind of stays that way, where it just sounds like the middle of the woods. It's just a bunch of crickets and creaking noises and things like that. But there is a radio you can turn on, and it has like this like very like weird jazz music that plays. That's the only way. It's like just like constantly, and I'm like, okay, I guess that's supposed to be soothing. I don't know. It's okay, but maybe it's supposed to be just kind of quirky. I don't know, but that's the only music really in the game. So, and there's no voice acting except for on the radio as well. There's like an announcer guy that will, do his DJ thing. But besides that, there's no voice acting. You do speak to some characters, and they just have dialogue boxes that pop up, and it's just funny, it's quirky, and it's a good time. So I don't think I have much else to say about this one. I mean, it's a great little game. Any other questions or comments before I put it on the quest log today? No,
I don't think so. I'm just interested
fun.
to hear. Yeah. It's a game that I plan on getting around to before the end of the year.
Same, yeah. 2026 release, so very tempting to prioritize it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a short guide too. This is a hard one to put on the quest log because like it's short. It does the thing really well. I thought it was extremely charming, but it's not much of a game. You know what I mean? It is a game, but it's not like you're just kind of just vibing, which that's pretty much what they're going for. I am leaning more towards a main quest for this one personally. I think any one of you two might slightly edge it towards a side quest, but it's just a really fun game. Like I just really enjoyed it. I would love them to expand upon this idea and make it even more. It's just fun. It has a little bit of that quirkiness, and it would fit perfectly in like a Steve Halloween stream slot. It's like 3 hours to 4 hours, and you're going to have a good time, going to have a smile on your face, hang out with the chat, So yeah, it's a great game. I think that you guys should play it before the end of the year, because I think it's going to be kind of like a little bit of a hidden gem for me this year. Like, I think people should check it out.
I will almost certainly stream this in or around October. It just seems perfect.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I had a really great time with it. It's like one of those is like, I can't think of anything that's like wrong with it to like be like, oh yeah, it's an 8 out of 10. Like, honestly, this is like kind of a banger. Like, it just does what it sets out to do one thing really well. It does it really well, and you leave with a smile on your face, So that's what you want. So
sometimes that's just the best thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for our show, except we do have a campfire chat from Chad, Go Hobo Go. Should I read it for you guys?
Yeah, because I don't have the doc up, so please do.
Okay. It says, Go Hobo Go here. I love that Seth's version of Panzer Paladin was updated with trophies, PS5 version, and added features. That was an unexpected benefit of Second Opinion episode. I never would have thought that some games may have evolved or fixed issues. I loved it. I found it hilarious as Josh was mentioning a character poisoning her husband, and almost on cue, one of the other guys started coughing. Lastly, chef's kiss to Josh. What a fun surprise. I love how you took a negative experience about your job and turned it into a positive with your extra time. What a bombshell, and everyone loved it. P.S. Josh, your positivity is inspiring. We need more Joshes in this world. Never change. Love you guys. Thanks for another amazing episode. Thank you, man. That's great. That's really nice words.
Thank you.
There can only be one Josh. We need more positivity, but you can only get one of the hype man. All
That's right.
Let's go. Speaking of Go Hobo Go, he is likely going to be a guest on the next episode, so stay tuned for that. So I don't like to say 100%. You never know. Things may happen, but I wanted to announce that. I'm pretty excited to have him on the show. So
yeah,
should be a good time.
Heck yeah.
All right, so that's going to do it for our show today. You can find us on Blue Sky, IndieQuest Pod. You can find the quest log, IndieQuestPod.com. And you can also send us emails, IndieQuestPod@gmail.com. I did want to shout out, when you click the fan mail button or the fan text button in the description now, you can actually send us voice mails now and text messages. Either one that you want to do. If just scroll into the description here of the podcast, there's a link at the top. Click fan mail. And yeah, if you send us a voicemail, we'll listen to them live on the show and react to them and everything, as long as they're nice, obviously. So that's a cool little feature that our provider Buzzsprout started offering. So I figured might as well give it a shot. So if you guys have a voicemail or a comment you want to send in to us, give it a shot. Steve, where can they find you on the internet?
The aforementioned Twitch and Blue Sky as Blinkoom. What about you, Seth?
You can find me at Captain Drachma on Blue Sky, and of course in the Polymedia Discord, best place on the internet. And if you want to get in the Discord, head on over to Patreon, search Polymedia, jump into the tier that gets you in the Discord, come and hang out with us. Josh, where can they find you?
You can find me at Josh Leslie on Blue Sky. You can also find my other show, The Monthly Mishap, I do with our buddy Scotch and Hobbies, all about movies and entertainment. There should be an episode in the next week or two here, so be on the lookout for that. You can also find other shows like this, our Sisters and Brother podcast, over on polymedianetwork.com, including Polykill, which we reference a lot, and I've been listening to since 2017. God help me. All right. Seth, why don't you close us out with some good parting words for our folks out there?
Some things seem spooky sometimes, and life can be scary. But just like in Creature Kitchen, sometimes you just got to wade in there, see what it's all about. Sometimes it just comes out cozy on the other side. We'll see everybody.